Chapter 1021, Lightning Quick Strike. Tai Hongling and two other quasi-sacred lords from Jiabao City charged into the clouds. Ha ha ha, you humans are actually sending a female to fight against me? Sacred Lord Raging Force's voice boomed across the sky. However, she fits me perfectly. Sacred Lord Raging Force looked at Tai Hongling with a blazing gaze. Even though he wasn't a human, he felt that Tai Hongling was much better looking than most non-human females. You ugly monster. Tai Hongling's eyes were cold, and her curved blade started to burn as a wave of heat swept in every direction. As expected of the Blood Devil Sun bloodline. So strong. Tai Hongling is a peerless prodigy only below that of Tai Lingyun in the Tai family. The two three-star captains behind Tai Hongling exclaimed in their hearts. Boom. A blast of flame surged out from Tai Hongling's back and merged into heaven and earth, forming a blazing little world. If one looked from afar, it would seem like a blazing sun that burned across heaven and earth. Tai Hongling didn't dare to be arrogant against a non-human sacred lord. Who? Tai Hongling summoned the power of her little world and used a secret skill that allowed her to appear in front of Sacred Lord Raging Force extremely quickly. Her blood-colored curved blades were able to unleash more power with the help of the little world's power, and two enormous flaming strikes were unleashed. At the same time, the two quasi-sacred lords appeared on each side of Sacred Lord Raging Force and unleashed their little worlds as they attacked Sacred Lord Raging Force with full power. Chaos Yuan Force Body. Sacred Lord Raging Force could tell that Tai Hongling was not simple, and he instantly released a surge of physical force that doubled the size of his body. Golden lines appeared on his dark green scales, and the powerful physical pressure radiating from him made the little worlds of Tai Hongling and company tremble. Come. Sacred Lord Raging Force's physical power was astounding after he used his Chaos Yuan Force body and clashed with the three quasi-sacred lords who had all unleashed their little worlds. Peng. Peng. Boom. What power! Tai Hongling's defense was still weaker than Sacred Lord Raging Force's even after using the Scarlet Jade Glass body of the Tai family. Sacred Lord Raging Force had the natural advantage, and he could unleash more power with his body strengthening technique. While the female in front of him was indeed strong, she was not his match. Boom. Sacred Lord Raging Force twirled his dark green light and smashed onto Tai Hongling's little world. Boom. 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 Any random shockwave from the Sacred Lord level battle in the sky could summon a storm in the battlefield below. There were already fewer captains from Jiabao City in comparison to the non-humans, and after the two three-star captains and Tai Hongling went to stall Sacred Lord Raging Force, the battlefield below was completely one-sided. The ninth prince stood on the city wall and looked into the distance. The general of the non-humans, Sacred Lord Dark Shadow, hasn't done anything yet. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow was the person in charge of Moon Dragon City. He was a powerful Sacred Lord from the Scorpion Men race, and he was a level stronger than Sacred Lord Raging Force. He specialized in speed and critical attacks. His defense and body strength weren't bad either. The ninth prince wasn't scared of Sacred Lord Dark Shadow though. He wanted to finish off both Sacred Lords at once. Sacred Lord Kang Chong's aura was hidden within Jiabao City, and he watched the situation on the battlefield. He was sent here to protect the ninth prince and wouldn't fight for him. However, even if he didn't do anything, the ninth prince wouldn't lose this battle. The ninth prince is not bad. Sacred Lord Kang Chong faintly smiled. They made Tai Hongling reduce the suspicions of the non-humans with her extremely strong battle power. When Zhao Feng took action, they would be able to kill Sacred Lord Raging Force for sure. As for Sacred Lord Dark Shadow though, Sacred Lord Kang Chong thought that it would be impossible to kill him. But the middle and lower echelons are at a very big disadvantage. A lot of troops will be lost. Sacred Lord Kang Chong looked at the fights between the captains. Damn it, this brat. The non-human snakeman that Zhao Feng was fighting against was completely suppressed by Zhao Feng, and his scales were covered in injuries. On the other hand, Zhao Feng walked with confidence, and his aura was steady. Our captain is so strong. I didn't expect Captain to be able to suppress a quasi-sacred lord even though he's just an emperor. Many of the soldiers that Zhao Feng was in charge of were stunned by his performance. They originally didn't think much of their new captain, especially since Zhao Feng was too young and not as famous as Tai Hongling. However, after witnessing Zhao Feng's strength, they had nothing else to say. Old Jia, come help me, quickly. The snakeman asked for reinforcements helplessly. Useless. A human emperor managed to beat you like this? A thick-skinned non-human that had a horn on his nose rushed over. Bam. After the two non-human sacred lords teamed up, they immediately turned the tide. Wangzi. The scarlet golden lightning around Zhao Feng suddenly became a little brighter, and he was now using 60% of his sacred lightning body's full power. Eh? This brat's strength? The nose-horned non-human revealed a surprised expression as Zhao Feng punched out once more. Boom. The two non-human captains circulated their defenses, but they were still pushed back. Amongst them, the snake man now had severe injuries. How is this possible? Is this brat using his full power only now? The snake man captain was also stunned. He called over a friend but was still suppressed by Zhao Feng. It was hard to describe the frustration he was feeling. Bam. Bam. Zhao Feng summoned devastating lightning and power as he clashed against the two quasi-sacred lords. The attacks of the two quasi-sacred lords were pushed aside by a surge of wind lightning, leaving Zhao Feng unharmed. You two are retards. He specializes in body strengthening. Get away from him. Another non-human captain arrived. The three non-human captains moved away from Zhao Feng and attacked from afar. Wang tilde whoosh. Whoosh. A pair of scarlet lightning wings spread behind Zhao Feng's back. Whoosh. Zhao Feng sped toward the Snake Man captain and crushed over with his sacred lightning force. The Snake Man captain wasn't able to run away even if he wanted to against Zhao Feng's speed. He could only stand there and take a beating, so the two other captains had to help protect the Snake Man captain. Boom. The three non-human captains became more surprised the longer they fought. The Snake Man captain that first fought against Zhao Feng was already exhausted. Zhao Feng was managing to deal with three captains at once, and they were respectively two quasi-sacred lords and one emperor. This action obviously caught the attention of the nearby soldiers and captains. Is this our captain? He's so strong. What profound battle skills. He has no weaknesses in terms of speed, power, or defense. Many kings from Jiabao City were stunned. They had to admit that the crown prince brought very strong people with him. No wonder he didn't panic after the non-humans decided to attack. On the other hand, the non-humans couldn't take it anymore, and another quasi-sacred lord finally entered the fight against Zhao Feng. 4 captains against Zhao Feng alone. 70%. Lightning flashed around Zhao Feng's body as the power of lightning increased a bit more. At the same time, Zhao Feng thrust out another palm. Sky-destroying sacred lightning palm. A giant scarlet golden palm phantom with countless streaks of scarlet lightning crushed forward. Zhao Feng only used his body in this attack and not the power of his wind lightning True Yuan. Boom. Wang Wang. The 4 captains circulated their True Yuan at the same time to block Zhao Feng's palm, and they each felt their entire body tingle. They felt as if their arms were about to explode. What a mystical skill. This brat's probably using his killing card. A non-human with a pointy nose said. Sacred Lord Raging Force also sensed this abnormality on the battlefield with his divine sense. This human brat's strength. Sacred Lord Raging Force was slightly surprised. Although the humans had no sacred lords, he didn't expect the quasi-sacred lord geniuses to be so strong. Sacred Lord Raging Force suddenly seemed to sense something and turned around. Sacred Lord Dark Shadows headed into battle now. The captains from Jiabao City were scared. They were originally at a disadvantage, but because Zhao Feng managed to stall 4 captains by himself, it was slightly better. However, the strongest Sacred Lord of Moondragon City was about to attack now. Whoosh. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow turned into a dark streak of light and sped onto the battlefield. The sky instantly darkened, and a surge of evil auras spread in every direction. Kill all the humans. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's voice was deep as he glanced at Zhao Feng. Kill. The morale of the non-human soldiers increased dramatically after their 2 sacred lords took action. Whoosh. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow didn't attack the 9th prince. Instead, he went for Zhao Feng. Instinct told him that this youth was more troublesome. Captain Zhao Feng. Not good. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow is going to attack our captain. The hearts of everyone in Zhao Feng's group trembled. No matter how strong their captain was, he couldn't be Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's match, right? Sacred Lord Dark Shadow. The 4 captains that were fighting with Zhao Feng were excited but scared at the same time. They were happy because this youth would definitely die now that Sacred Lord Dark Shadow took action, but they were scared that they would be punished after the battle. Hu tilde Wang. Wang. The wings behind Zhao Feng's back fluttered quickly as he evaded Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's attack. Anticipated it? Sacred Lord Dark Shadow was stunned. An emperor managed to dodge his attack. After dodging Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's attack, Zhao Feng ran in a certain direction as if he was trying to escape, but in reality, he was approaching Sacred Lord Raging Force. Don't even think about it. The four captains were extremely annoyed and immediately went forward, but the next instant, the scarlet golden lightning around Zhao Feng suddenly released a dazzling light as an unparalleled force radiated from him. Wah! The four non-human captains felt like a mountain was crushing them, and they all spat out mouthfuls of fresh blood. The tired and relatively more injured Snake Man captain was directly killed by the 6th level of Zhao Feng's sacred lightning body. Lightning Wings Spatial Flash. The next instant, Zhao Feng used a spatial technique that allowed him to turn into a bolt of lightning and appear directly behind Sacred Lord Raging Force. What? Sacred Lord Raging Force, who was currently fighting Tai Hongling and company, suddenly felt a sense of life and death danger. Sky-destroying Sacred Lightning Palm. Zhao Feng circulated all his power and thrust downward as he merged his Fire of Wind Lightning True Yuan in. The sky-destroying Sacred Lightning Palm this time contained Zhao Feng's full power. A scarlet golden palm phantom appeared above Sacred Lord Raging Force's head. Terrifying Fire of Wind Lightning churned within it. Boom. 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 Sacred Lord Raging Force's Chaos Yuan Force body was shattered by Zhao Feng's palm, and blood splattered across the sky. How is this possible? Sacred Lord Raging Force spat out fresh blood and was completely stunned. All of this had happened too quickly. Sacred Lord Raging Force immediately circulated his true yuan to get rid of the numbing pain in his body and steady himself, but the next instant, Zhao Feng appeared on his right. A purple golden crystal of lightning suddenly shot out of Zhao Feng's faint golden left eye and into Sacred Lord Raging Force's soul. Arg! Sacred Lord Raging Force instantly started to scream as 10,000 bolts of lightning seemed to thunder down. At the same time, another red palm thrust out toward him. Peng! Bam! Sacred Lord Raging Force's body and Yuan soul shattered. The entire process happened within the span of 3 breaths. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow was still dazed, and the hearts of Tai Hongling and the 2 other captains in the sky were rapidly beating as they looked at Zhao Feng, who was covered in scarlet lightning. Chapter 1022, Power of the Palm. Sacred Lords were the highest battle powers in the battlefield, and they were unreachable existences for the soldiers. A clash between Sacred Lords could destroy heaven and earth, and it was rare for Sacred Lords to die at all ever since this war started. After all, there were only 1 or 2 Sacred Lords in every city. When the difference in strength between both sides wasn't that big, Sacred Lords couldn't be killed. However, at this moment in time, a Sacred Lord on the non-human side who originally had a big advantage was killed. Sacred Lord Raging Force. Sacred Lord Raging Force has been killed. How is this possible? Countless non-human soldiers and captains on the battlefield were stunned and couldn't believe it. The shadow of fear covered the hearts of all the non-humans and reduced their morale dramatically. The captains that were just fighting with Zhao Feng felt their hearts jump and scalps tingle. Is this his true strength? Even if he's actually at the level of a quasi-sacred lord, how can he kill Sacred Lord Raging Force so easily? The 3 non-human captains couldn't believe that they had been fighting with such a terrifying opponent. It was obvious that this human had hidden his true strength because he wanted to kill a Sacred Lord, not them. On the other hand, the low morale of the humans was instantly boosted as screams and cheers sounded. One of the non-human Sacred Lords is dead. Is this a secret weapon that came with the Crown Prince? So we do have a Sacred Lord level battle power expert here. Countless soldiers and humans were extremely excited. Some of the captains that had heard of Zhao Feng's legends before still couldn't believe what they saw. Zhao Feng. Tai Hongling was dazed as she floated in the air. She originally thought that she might be able to injure Sacred Lord Raging Force with the other 2 quasi-sacred lords, and perhaps if she used a few hidden cards, she would be able to kill him. However, Zhao Feng took away her prey just like that and instantly killed him. Furthermore, the strength that Zhao Feng just displayed was completely different from their spar earlier. His physical power was at least twice as strong. Could he have been hiding his strength? Tai Hongling was extremely stunned. If Zhao Feng had displayed such power back then, she would have definitely lost. Such a powerful and excellent male also had the perfect blood devil son bloodline of the Tai family. Tai Hongling's heart had never felt like this before. This human. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's expression was extremely ugly as he glanced at the cold youth in the sky and Sacred Lord Raging Force's remains. At this moment, Sacred Lord Dark Shadow finally understood that this was the humans' plan. They had purposely directed their only Sacred Lord away to lure them in. The humans had made preparations already and sent over a quasi-Sacred Lord that wasn't any weaker than peak Sacred Lords. However, why did this youth not kill Sacred Lord Raging Force from the beginning? Why did he only reveal his strength as soon as Sacred Lord Dark Shadow appeared? It's your turn now. Zhao Feng's gaze turned toward Sacred Lord Dark Shadow below. What? Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's heart shook as he understood. The reason this youth didn't reveal his true power from the beginning was because he wanted to kill him as well. Humph, ridiculous. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow snickered coldly. Even though Zhao Feng had slain Sacred Lord Raging Force, it was because the latter was off guard and suffered an ambush. No one present expected this to happen. Sacred Lord Raging Force had been too arrogant and was thus killed. However, this battle was indeed not looking very good. While Sacred Lord Dark Shadow believed that Zhao Feng couldn't kill him in a one-on-one fight, the humans still had the female from the Tai family who was extremely strong. Wang Boom. The ninth prince stood on Xiaobao City's wall and held the ancient green sword of lightning as he channeled his draconic providence into the sky. Full retreat. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow roared. The non-humans instantly stopped what they were doing and started to rush back toward Moondragon City. There were usually two types of retreating orders. The first was retreat. This basically meant counterattacking while moving back. The other was full retreat. This meant to give up on resisting and run back as quickly as they could. At this moment, the non-humans initiated a full retreat. Whoosh! Sacred Lord Dark Shadow turned into a black streak of light and sped backward. Get back here. The wings behind Zhao Feng's back released a brilliant burst of fire of wind lightning, which pushed his speed to the maximum. Zhao Feng's figure flashed and appeared before Sacred Lord Dark Shadow, stopping him with his physical force. Human bastard, fuck off. Do you really think that I would be scared of you in single combat? Sacred Lord Dark Shadow gritted his teeth. Although he specialized in speed, the speed of this human brat in front of him wasn't any slower than his. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow spread his arms and turned them into a large pair of scorpion claws that stabbed toward Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng didn't move. He simply circulated the fire of wind lightning so that he was covered in scarlet golden light. Ding! Bam! Zhao Feng took the attack of Sacred Lord Dark Shadow head-on, then thrust out a palm. This physical defense. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow felt his scorpion claws turn numb. This youth in front of him relied on body strength alone to block his attack head-on. One had to know that the Scorpion Men race specialized in powerful one-hit attacks that could even counter body-strengthening experts. Kill the non-humans. The ninth prince raised the ancient green sword of lightning and commanded. Ding! Boom! Bam! The human soldiers and captains pursued with full power while the ninth prince and Tai Hongling charged toward Sacred Lord Dark Shadow. I can't waste any more time. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow squished a talisman and escaped through Zhao Feng's offense. Zhao Feng, stop Sacred Lord Dark Shadow. Don't let him get away. The ninth prince turned into a green streak of light and rushed over. They needed to kill as many non-human Sacred Lords as they could. If Sacred Lord Dark Shadow got away today, he would kill many humans in the future. Humph! Zhao Feng snickered coldly as a layer of dark thunderclouds merged into the sky. The next instant, Sacred Lord Dark Shadow appeared in a chaotic dimension. The laws here heavily restricted his speed. This brat's little world is so weird. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow was surprised. He had never seen the power of a quasi-sacred lord be so high. He could feel an old and ancient aura within this human youth's little world. Wang Boom! Sacred Lord Dark Shadow didn't dare to be arrogant. He released the power of his little world as well. A layer of black swarmed toward Zhao Feng's little world of wind lightning. The little worlds of sacred lords were completely different. Although they could only use projections, the power of a projection could still crush the little world of an emperor. However, at this moment, Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's little world projection only had a tiny advantage against Zhao Feng's little world of wind lightning. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow couldn't care any less though as long as he wasn't affected by Zhao Feng's little world and could run away successfully. The ninth prince and Tai Hongling were slightly slower and wouldn't be able to arrive within a short amount of time. Hee, I'll give it a test then. Zhao Feng revealed a smile. After all, this was the little world projection of the Sacred Lord. It was already not bad that Zhao Feng's little world of wind lightning could counter it. Wang Shu. Shu. Fire of wind lightning surrounded Zhao Feng as his physical power started to gather on his right palm. At the same time, the little world of wind lightning also strengthened Zhao Feng. Sky-destroying sacred lightning palm, world-destroying palm. The power of his sacred lightning body weakened the instant he unleashed this attack. A golden red palm phantom as large as a mountain shot out and smashed through everything in its path. Boom. Zhao Feng's attack landed on Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's little world projection. Boom. Wang Wang. The sacred lightning force and the power of wind lightning was released through the sky-destroying sacred lightning palm and started to enter the structure of the little world projection. What the hell? The structure of my little world. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's heart jumped. He suddenly felt the little world within his body start to shake, and part of the fundamental structures were destroyed. At the same time, the power of his little world projection also became a little more chaotic. It became weaker, and part of the power of the sky-destroying sacred lightning palm landed on Sacred Lord Dark Shadow. Who? Zhao Feng's little world of lightning used this chance to sweep in and suppress Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's little world projection. So that's how it is. The weaker the foundation of a little world, the easier it is to destroy. Zhao Feng gained some comprehension after using the sky-destroying sacred lightning palm. In reality, most emperors formed their little worlds in a rush since they didn't have any experience or the guidance of a senior, and they would heavily regret it in the future. Some sacred lords would spend a lot of time and effort to forcefully strengthen their little worlds. Some sacred lords would even destroy their little world and create a new one. I might be able to destroy the little world of normal sacred lords in one palm. Zhao Feng felt smug. It was obvious that Sacred Lord Dark Shadow was a more experienced Sacred Lord though, so his little world was relatively stable. This human bastard. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's scalp tingled. He never thought that a quasi-sacred lord would be able to damage the foundation his little world. One had to know that, as long as the foundation of a little world wasn't destroyed, it would be able to recover as long as there was enough energy. Without any hesitation, Sacred Lord Dark Shadow turned into a giant scorpion surrounded by darkness and tried to run away. Tai Hongling, who was still chasing after Zhao Feng, was full of shock and fear. One could argue that Zhao Feng killed Sacred Lord Raging Force by catching him off guard, but now Zhao Feng was actually chasing after Sacred Lord Dark Shadow and giving him a beating. If Sacred Lord Dark Shadow didn't specialize in speed, he probably would have ended up like Sacred Lord Raging Force already. Sky-locking bow. A red arrow of wind lightning formed on a dark silver bow in Zhao Feng's hand and shot into the air with a bang tilde. Whoosh. The next time the arrow appeared was when it pierced through Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's chest. After turning into a scorpion, Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's defense and size had become greater. He managed to reduce part of the sky-locking bow's damage, but it was ultimately useless. Bang tilde whoosh. Bang tilde whoosh. Zhao Feng pulled back the bowstring several times and unleashed scarlet arrows one after another. They shot through the air and stabbed into Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's body. Damn it, this human bastard. The scorpion that was Sacred Lord Dark Shadow howled in the air. Zhao Feng's attacks heavily damaged his body and affected his speed. Because of the war points, I can't let you, who is already severely injured, be killed by someone else. The wings behind Zhao Feng's back fluttered as he chased Sacred Lord Dark Shadow and thrust out his palm. Die. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's tail turned into a black spike and stabbed toward Zhao Feng. He was already severely injured and was no longer faster than Zhao Feng. Wind Lightning Eye Flame. Zhao Feng used a Soul Eye Bloodline technique and unleashed a purple and gold flame that exploded onto Sacred Lord Dark Shadow. At the same time, Zhao Feng used his agility to dodge Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's tail while appearing above Sacred Lord Dark Shadow and crushing down with his sacred lightning body. Peng. Peng. Boom. Zhao Feng thrust out several palms and split Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's enormous body into countless pieces. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's weak soul was killed by Zhao Feng's soul intent before it was even able to run away. Another non-human Sacred Lord had died. Chapter 1023, War Points. General. Lord Dark Shadow. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow, the general of Moondragon City, had been killed. The non-human army instantly started to panic. This level of defeat was something that had never happened before since the start of the war. Great. The ninth prince cheered behind Zhao Feng. However, he had already realized that the two non-human Sacred Lords weren't very strong. Sacred Lord Raging Force was the weakest, and Sacred Lord Dark Shadow was slightly weaker than the masked male that tried to assassinate him. It was because the opponents were only normal Sacred Lords that the ninth prince wasn't worried. If these two Sacred Lords both had Sacred Lord Black Shark's strength, the ninth prince wouldn't feel any confidence even with Zhao Feng's help. After all, the lifespan of Sacred Lords was in dozens of thousands of years, so the Sacred Lords that had lived for over 10,000 years were obviously a lot stronger than the Sacred Lords that had just broken through. What a powerful eye bloodline. Sacred Lord Dark Shadow was killed before Tai Hongling even managed to participate in the fight, but she could see what was important. Zhao Feng's soul intent had surpassed normal Sacred Lords, and his soul eye bloodline techniques were extremely profound. For example, Tai Hongling specialized in physical attacks. Even if she managed to destroy Sacred Lord Raging Force's body, she wouldn't be able to destroy his soul, so he would have been able to escape unless Tai Hongling used a hidden card. Zhao Feng killed the two Sacred Lords, but he also used his soul eye bloodline techniques to destroy their souls. Wait, Zhao Feng's already killed two Sacred Lords. That means he has 40,000 war points. Tai Hongling suddenly remembered something, and her expression changed dramatically as she became angry. If she knew something like this would happen beforehand, she wouldn't have used war points for the bet. However, even if she was going to lose, she couldn't allow the difference between her and Zhao Feng to be so big. Whoosh! Tai Hongling immediately joined the battlefield below and circulated her Blood Devil Sun bloodline to slaughter the non-humans and unleash her frustration. Kill. Kill all the non-humans. The human forces had never been this excited before. They didn't know how long it had been since they had killed enemies in such a manner. Furthermore, two non-human Sacred Lords even died in this battle. This was something that had never happened before. Captain Zhao is far too strong. His battle power does not match his rank. Sweat appeared on some captains. They were captains as well, but the difference between them and Zhao Feng was too big. After killing two Sacred Lords, Zhao Feng turned toward the battlefield. One emperor is worth 1,000 points, a quasi-Sacred Lord is worth 6,000. Zhao Feng's eyes locked onto the non-human captains. Even though a mosquito was small, it was still meat. Mark of the God Eye. Zhao Feng left a mark behind on all the captains he could sense. Skylocking bow. A red arrow of wind lightning condensed on the dark silver bow in Zhao Feng's hand and shot through the air with a bang. The next instant, a red arrow of wind lightning pierced through the chest of a captain that was running away. With Zhao Feng's fire of wind lightning through Yuan and the grade of the skylocking bow itself, he could kill almost everyone weaker than a quasi-Sacred Lord with one arrow. Not many non-humans would be able to survive. Bing whoosh. Another two-star captain was shot dead by Zhao Feng. This method was easy and simple. Bing whoosh. A scarlet golden arrow shot out and killed an emperor that was running away. Zhao Feng just stood there and used his sky-locking bow to easily slay emperors. Some non-human captains that were being chased by the human captains were also slain by Zhao Feng. Some captains were full of envy and jealousy when they saw Zhao Feng collecting war points so easily. Zhao Feng, you. Tai Hongling was extremely frustrated. She was chasing after a non-human captain just now, but an arrow of lightning took the kill. Bing whoosh. At this moment, this sound was like the sound of death. Every time it sounded, an emperor would die. The non-human army instantly broke apart and ran as fast as they could. Zhao Feng had become their nightmare. However, no matter how far they ran, Zhao Feng could still kill any emperor he had left a mark on without moving. The normal non-human soldiers felt lucky that they were so weak that they weren't targeted by this terrifying human. Zhao Feng's actions obviously took all the war points of many other human captains. It was extremely easy for Zhao Feng to kill these non-human captains, but if a human captain wanted to kill one, it was extremely hard. This Jiao Feng isn't even giving me a sip of the soup. One captain was angry. Jiao Feng slaying 2 sacred lords had turned the tide around, and he had become the strongest expert in the army. He was a savior to them. However, his current actions reduced the impression of him in the other captains' hearts. Brother Zhao, your war points are probably enough to enter the top 2,000 of the Land Province War Board rankings. Let the other captains have some too. The 9th prince said. One had to know that the War Board rankings were calculated from the start of the war, and anyone within the top 5,000 of each province was an elite that had been fighting for over half a year at the least. However, Jiao Feng had already reached the top 2,000 in his first battle. This was extremely shocking. Of course, this was because Jiao Feng had killed 2 sacred lords single-handedly. Jiao Feng felt pretty helpless. He wanted to kill non-humans but wasn't allowed to? Furthermore, from Jiao Feng's point of view, it was only easy to obtain war points in the early stages of the war. As the war dragged out, more peerless geniuses and older sacred lords would start to appear on the battlefield. At that point, it would be hard even for Jiao Feng to kill sacred lords. He had killed Sacred Lord Raging Force because it was unexpected and the latter wasn't on guard against him. Jiao Feng had killed Sacred Lord Dark Shadow by relying on his strength and the fact that his god's spiritual eye countered Sacred Lord Dark Shadow's speed and agility. But in the future? The army followed the 9th prince, charged forward, and took over Moondragon City. The captains had complicated thoughts as they stood in Moondragon City. We actually managed to take over Moondragon City. Ha ha ha. The non-humans are courting death. It's all thanks to the Crown Prince's commands and little friend Zhao's help. The captains all had smiles on their faces as they surrounded the 9th prince and Jiao Feng. After taking over Moondragon City, the 9th prince immediately reported everyone's war points to the Land Province War Hall. Jiao Feng, why did you suppress your strength when sparring against me that day? Tai Hongling's eyes were hot, and her stunning beauty made the other males all fall for her. From Tai Hongling's point of view, Jiao Feng only had one reason to do such a thing. Jiao Feng had already been completely attracted by her and had gone easy on her. He suppressed his strength because he didn't want to harm her. However, Tai Hongling wanted to hear it from Jiao Feng personally. I just broke through. Jiao Feng replied honestly in an emotionless tone. You. Tai Hongling's face went slightly red, and she became mildly angry. She didn't expect Jiao Feng to give a reply like this. Little friend Zhao's talent is indeed stunning. The younger generation of the Great Gan Lord dynasty can only look up to such cultivation speed. Some of the captains immediately spoke with smiles. Although they disliked the fact that Jiao Feng had taken some of their war points, Jiao Feng was the strongest person present. He was the only person with the battle power of a sacred lord. On top of that, Jiao Feng's potential was unimaginable. They all needed to get on good terms with him. The 9th prince and Old Ying stood on the side and had smiles on their faces. They knew everything that was happening between Jiao Feng and Tai Hongling, and they could prove that Jiao Feng had indeed just broken through. After taking over Moondragon City, the 9th prince took out the treasury and rewarded the troops. Jiao Feng, Old Ying, and Tai Hongling became 3-star captains without a doubt due to their performances, and Jiao Feng became a person that was only 1 rank lower than the 9th prince. The 9th prince's forces obviously stayed in Moondragon City. After the battle ended, Jiao Feng entered seclusion once more. He was satisfied by his first use of the sky-destroying lightning palm and had comprehended a lot of things. After all, Jiao Feng suppressed his power and cultivation when practicing in the misty spatial world so he didn't destroy it. Since he suppressed them, he was unable to comprehend all of the move's intent. However, this time was different from the past. Whenever Jiao Feng gained some new understanding, he would leave Moondragon City and go to a place where no one was around to practice the full sky-destroying sacred lightning palm. Over half of the territory in the 3 provinces was currently a war zone. It was hard to see anyone else apart from soldiers from the 2 lord dynasties. Boom. Wang wang. Jiao Feng closed his eyes and thrust out his palm. Lightning seemed to run through the golden red palm as the power of lightning and physical force merged together perfectly. Boom. A mountain in the distance was flattened by Jiao Feng. Jiao Feng then started to cultivate the physical force lightning domain. Jiao Feng was able to release it after several failures. Boom. 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 Several dozen miles within range of Jiao Feng's sacred lightning body was immersed in a storm of physical force and lightning. Enemies in this area would be affected by the pressure of the sacred lightning body's 6th level. Zhao Feng just cultivated the physical force lightning domain and could probably only affect normal emperors. We'll end here today. Zhao Feng put the physical force lightning domain back into his sacred lightning body and returned to Moon Dragon City. A bit more than a dozen days later, the 9th Prince's report was received by the Land Province War Hall, and it instantly caused some discussion. Many of the upper echelon members thought that the 9th Prince was talented in both martial arts and academics. He actually managed to take over Moon Dragon City even though he didn't have any sacred lords in his army. Some of the other upper echelon members didn't think too much about it. Everyone knew that the princes had come to the battlefield to gain war points. It was the same for the other princes. Therefore, the forces that supported every prince would usually send a few experts to help the prince gain war points. For example, the 4th, 13th, 7th, and 8th princes were all doing a good job in the war as well. Although the 9th prince's army didn't have any sacred lords, many geniuses in the Great Gan Lord dynasty, such as Tai Ling Yun, Nan Gongsheng, Zhuan Yuan Wen, and many other quasi-sacred lords all have the battle power of a sacred lord, so it wasn't surprising. Wang Wang. On a certain day, Zhao Feng's name suddenly appeared on the 1982nd spot on the Land Province War Board rankings. Chapter 1024, Undercurrent. In an area connected to Land Province, there was a dark mountain range covered by black mist. This mountain range was full of a wicked aura that swept across the sky. This was the main war hall of the non-humans that were responsible for attacking Land Province. Within a secret hall, a piece of gray paper floated before a muscular male with a giant black horn and eyes as big as bells. Moon Dragon City has been conquered. The giant horned male's deep voice sounded. At the same time, weird figures appeared around the hall one after another. Moon Dragon City has 2 sacred lords. They were defeated? A wicked voice asked. Moon Dragon City was the furthest they had gone into enemy territory. This was why the War Hall placed great importance on it and sent out 2 sacred lords to defend it. Both sacred lords were killed. The giant horned male added. Sacred Lord Demonic Bull, how is that possible? Could the humans have sent out their ancient sacred lords already? Another deep voice sounded throughout the hall. They both died. There is definitely something suspicious. More suspicious voices sounded within the Great Hall. Even though these 2 sacred lords were not as strong as ancient sacred lords, it was still difficult to kill either one of them, but now both of them had been killed? This could only happen if the humans had sent late-stage mystic light realms into the battlefield. According to news from Meng City, they don't even have any sacred lords. It's probably a Great Gan prodigy. Sacred Lord Demonic Bull continued. Meng City was the non-human-controlled city nearest Moon Dragon City. There were many powerful non-humans there, and some of the warriors that escaped from Moon Dragon City made it there. Humph. The Great Gan Lord dynasty doesn't care whether their prodigies live or die? A voice full of killing intent sounded. It was obvious that this upper echelon member wanted to kill the prodigies of the Great Gan Lord dynasty personally. No need for you to go. A serpent son from the Serpentman race has come here. Let him go reinforce Meng City. Sacred Lord Demonic Bull decided. The Serpentman race were the rulers of the Dark Moon Lord dynasty. Serpent sons were like the princes of the Great Gan Lord dynasty. This time, it's the 5th serpent son that came. He should have brought many powerful subordinates with him as well, Sacred Lord Demonic Bull added. The war had just begun, and the non-humans were still making other preparations. Right now, they just needed to stabilize their footing. They would attack for real when the time was ripe. Sacred lords were already rare, and there was no need to use even stronger battle powers unless necessary, since that would only increase the intensity of the war. At this moment, another voice sounded outside the hall, news from the front line. Whoosh! Black mist appeared within the hall, and a gray piece of paper floated in from outside and landed in Sacred Lord Demonic Bull's hand. Sacred Lord Myriad Forms conquered another city. Sacred Lord Demonic Bull roughly summarized. Ha ha ha, as expected of Sacred Lord Myriad Forms. He's still able to maintain such results even now? Obviously. He's a descendant of the 8 great god eyes, after all. Over the last couple days in Moon Dragon City, the 9th Prince's troops had arrived. These forces included members of the Ocean Smoke Pavilion, Duke Ninfeng's forces, elites from the Grand Duke Lands province, as well as a few other forces. With these forces, we can take over Meng City. The ninth prince was full of excitement. Meng City only had one sacred lord, but they had more low-tier soldiers since some had escaped from Moon Dragon City. However, as long as they were able to kill the top battle power of Meng City, the outcome would be decided. Report. An intel agent outside the ninth prince's hall rushed in. The ninth prince took the secret report, and his expression became slightly ugly. Your Highness, what is it? Old Ying immediately asked. Meng City is getting reinforcements. It's a serpent son, the ninth prince said. That's normal. Even if a serpent son didn't come, they would have sent someone else, Old Ying immediately said. Taking over Moon Dragon City and killing 2 sacred lords would obviously draw the attention of the non-humans. A serpent son of the Serpentman race would at least be easier to deal with in comparison to some ancient sacred lords. We won't attack Meng City then. This needs to be well planned out. The ninth prince calmed down. He needed to wait for his scouts to at least learn how strong Meng City would become first before making a decision. At this moment, Zhao Feng was walking through the exchange market within Moon Dragon City. This exchange market was obviously created by the troops within the city. Both soldiers and captains obtained spoils of war from killing the non-humans, but most of them weren't very useful for themselves. At the beginning, exchanges only happened between small groups, but it started to expand until it became a market. Zhao Feng had obtained a lot of spoils of war after killing 2 sacred lords and a bunch of emperors, but even that was very far off in comparison to the resources he had in the misty spatial world. However, his forces were currently expanding and needed resources urgently, which would require a large amount of wealth over time. Right now, Zhao Feng could use his spoils of war to trade for some items or resources he needed more urgently. The resources that Zhao Feng needed for the Golden Kun Sacred Lightning Body and 5 Elemental Wind Lightning Technique were too high level, and he needed different elements. Apart from that, cultivating the first level of the soul-splitting technique had caused Zhao Feng's soul intent to weaken. Although it had mainly recovered, that had cost him most of his soul resources. Brother Zhao Feng, I'll give you discounts on whatever you want. Captain Zhao Feng, I have everything here. If you want anything, just tell me. Many sellers spoke when Zhao Feng arrived at the market. Zhao Feng definitely had a lot of spoils of war after killing 2 sacred lords and dozens of emperors. Furthermore, this was a great chance to build up a good relationship with him. Zhao Feng managed to obtain the resources he wanted very easily in the end. After exchanging for the resources he wanted, Zhao Feng went to where the soldiers were stationed. This place was filled with rows of simple houses, and Zhao Feng walked into one specific long row. Grand Elder. Several figures exclaimed the instant Zhao Feng walked in. The leading person was a peak-tier king who immediately walked forward. Split these resources amongst yourselves. Zhao Feng gave this king an interspatial ring. Thank you, Grand Elder. This elder immediately bowed, and the members of the Ocean Smoke Pavilion behind them were extremely grateful. The performance of their Grand Elder had allowed them to receive better treatment, and now the Grand Elder had personally come to give them resources. After the next battle ends, try and go back to the Ocean Smoke Pavilion and tell the Pavilion Master to send some members with potential, Zhao Feng messaged the leading elder in private. The battlefield was a good place to train oneself, and Zhao Feng could use the battlefield to train the members of his forces that had more potential. On top of that, war points could be traded for resources that could help the expansion of his forces. Understood. The elder said in a respectful tone. Zhao Feng then returned to his residence and started to cultivate. Zhao Feng circulated the 10,000 Divine Thoughts technique and multitasked. I've almost finished creating the 2nd level of the soul-splitting technique. Zhao Feng started to think. The reason why his creation of the 2nd level progressed so quickly was because of Sacred Lord Star Demon's help. However, even if he did manage to create the 2nd level of the soul-splitting technique, Zhao Feng wouldn't cultivate it in a rush. After all, Sacred Lord Star Demon and he were the ones that had created it, not the original author. Zhao Feng needed to get rid of as many errors as possible. Furthermore, Zhao Feng's soul intent had only just recovered. If he cultivated the 2nd level, it would fall back down again. On top of that, he didn't need another soul clone anytime soon anyways. At the moment, Zhao Wang is in the Darkness Ghost Clan and is already an elite amongst inner disciples. His cultivation has reached the middle stages of the Great Origin Core Realm. Zhao Feng nodded his head. He had purposely suppressed Zhao Wang's cultivation speed so that it wouldn't make others suspicious, or else Zhao Wang would have reached the peak Great Origin Core realm already given his talent, the Eye of Death, and the resources that Zhao Feng gave him. The little thieving cat was also using the resources that Zhao Feng gave it. It stayed within the misty spatial world, barely leaving. The little thieving cat's strength is also increasing rapidly. Zhao Feng murmured to himself. The little thieving cat's strength grew alongside Zhao Feng. The difference between emperors and sacred lords was too big. If the little thieving cat wasn't strong enough, then it wouldn't be able to follow Zhao Feng's footsteps and help him. Who? Resources within the misty spatial world moved in front of Zhao Feng. Dark lightning bloodgrass, sky wind spiritual bamboo, 9 sky green fire fruit. Zhao Feng circulated the 5 elemental wind lightning technique and absorbed the elements within these precious resources while purifying them as well. 3 days passed, and the fire of wind lightning true yuan within Zhao Feng's crystal core became purer. The occasional flicker of lightning flashed through it. Late stages of fire of wind lightning. Zhao Feng opened his eyes. His fire of wind lightning had been stuck at the early stages for a long time, and it had finally broken through. The 8th level is the fire of wind lightning, then the 9th level is the earth of wind lightning. Zhao Feng was already making preparations to cultivate the 9th level, which was the earth of wind lightning. Next to the 9th prince's city in Lan province was the 13th prince's stronghold. The 13th prince relied on his army of elites and one sacred lord to finally conquer a city, but the joy on his face immediately faded away after learning that the 9th prince had taken over Moon Dragon City already. The 9th prince had no sacred lords on his side and was still able to take over a city? This made him even more famous. The non-humans in Moon Dragon City are retarded. The 13th prince cursed. Your Highness, the 9th prince is relying solely on Zhao Feng, and Moon Dragon City underestimated their opponents. This is why they were defeated. Zai Peng from Nine Darkness Palace spoke to the 13th prince. Zai Peng had entered the Crown Prince trial alongside the 13th prince and was a powerful quasi-sacred lord. After the Crown Prince trial ended, he became stronger and would be able to attempt a breakthrough to the Mystic Light realm soon. That Zhao Feng is indeed troublesome. The 13th prince would become angry whenever he heard Zhao Feng's name. Indeed, the main point is Zhao Feng. If Zhao Feng is unable to stay on the battlefield. He. Zai Peng revealed a wicked smile. Zai Peng, you have an idea? The 13th prince revealed a joyful look. After offending Nine Darkness Palace, Zhao Feng won't have a good ending, just like with Nan Gongsheng. Chapter 1025, Unexpected Rewards. The Earth of Wind Lightning focuses on defense and control. With the fire of wind lightning and his perfect blood devil sun bloodline, Zhao Feng's physical attacks were already strong enough. Therefore, the Earth of Wind Lightning was precisely what Zhao Feng needed. It's also easier to obtain resources that contain the element of Earth. Zhao Feng felt a bit better. Most precious minerals contained a certain amount of the Earth element, but it wasn't worth wasting them since there was so little Earth elemental power. It was better to absorb actual Earth elemental resources, but they were more common than other elements. Zhao Feng exited seclusion and walked out his room. Captain Zhao Feng. A personal guard of the 9th prince stood outside Zhao Feng's residence. What is it? Zhao Feng asked. From the looks of it, this guard had been waiting here for a long time for Zhao Feng to come out of seclusion. The general invites you over. The guard then led Zhao Feng to the 9th prince's residence. Brother Zhao, I have a very important mission for you this time. If you aren't willing to accept, I won't force you, the 9th prince said. He knew that Zhao Feng liked to be straightforward. Our scouts went to gather intel from Meng City but never came out. Old Ying told him a secret. Meng City was the non-human city nearest Moon Dragon City, and the scouts of both armies specialized in stealth and sensing. The result was obvious: if the scouts hadn't returned, they were discovered and killed. According to some news from a while ago, a serpent son has arrived in Meng City. They are comparable to the princes of the Great Gon Lord dynasty. However, we don't know how many experts this serpent son brought with him. Old Ying continued to speak. Only by knowing the opponent would they be able to win. If the 9th prince attacked Meng City rashly and an early-stage Mystic Light Realm expert suddenly jumped out, it would be horrendous. Therefore, the two armies would usually send scouts to find out such information. At this moment, The non-humans are patrolling in a 10,000-mile radius around Meng City. It's even harder to find information. Old Ying sighed and told Zhao Feng the details. I wonder if Brother Zhao could become a scout and head to the non-human city to gather information? The ninth prince told Zhao Feng what he had in mind. Everyone knew that being a scout was extremely dangerous. The enemy may have set up traps for scouts to fall into. Scouts could also sometimes learn false information. Therefore, this position was dangerous and important. Making someone who didn't have professional training do this job was the same as throwing them into a fire pit, but Zhao Feng was an exception. If Brother Zhao doesn't want to do it, I won't force you. We'll just use defense as a fence and wait for them to attack. At that point in time, we'll get to know how strong they are, the ninth prince continued. Zhao Feng personally coming to the front lines was already a great help. The ninth prince felt kind of bad if Zhao Feng had to become a scout as well, but he and Old Ying had discussed this idea for a long time. Firstly, Zhao Feng had the misty spatial world. If there was an accident, he could use it to run away easily. Secondly, gathering information with his eye bloodline should be a simple task for Zhao Feng. Leave the task of scouting to me. Zhao Feng agreed after understanding what was going on. He was also curious as to why the non-humans didn't continue to attack. There had to be something going on. Zhao Feng obviously wanted to fight because he would be able to gain more experience and more war points that he could trade for resources. He also hoped to know the enemy better before the two sides fought. Brother Zhao is willing to scout the front lines? The ninth prince and Old Ying paused for a moment. They didn't expect Zhao Feng to be so decisive. Zhao Feng, do you need any helpers? Old Ying asked. I am more than enough. Zhao Feng said before leaving the palace. He left behind a marking with the misty spatial world before leaving and heading toward Meng City. Zhao Feng's god's spiritual eye sensed something before he made it very far. Whoosh! 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 Zhao Feng used the lightning wings flying spatial technique and quickly closed in. It was a pile of rocks with several rotting bodies nearby. At this moment, a non-human was hiding within a big pile of boulders. His hands were pressed onto the ground and releasing a surge of stealthy mental energy. Not good, someone's approaching. This non-human who had merged into the rocks was stunned. A human had suddenly entered range of his senses. He can't have found me. He should just be passing by. This non-human thought. From the beginning, he hadn't sensed any disturbance of mental energy, so he was sure that Zhao Feng hadn't sensed him. He was the top scout from Meng City, and he had never failed to report with the help of the unique bloodline in his body. Whoosh! Zhao Feng flew toward this non-human at a very fast speed and instantly approached. Boom! Zhao Feng thrust his palm out and shattered the pile of boulders. A dark yellow figure full of fear instantly jumped. You should be a non-human scout, right? Zhao Feng revealed a joyful expression as purple and gold light started to spin in his left eye. Mental energy spike. A purple golden crystalline spike of lightning suddenly shot out from Zhao Feng's left eye directly into the non-human's soul. Plop. This non-human was only an emperor, so he was instantly killed by Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng waved his hand and took this captain's head, an interspatial storage item. An emperor is 1,000 war points. I can't let it go to waste. Zhao Feng was pretty happy. His luck was pretty good. A non-human had given him some war points just after he left the city. After all, emperors weren't cabbages. Each city only had a limited number of emperors, and some were captains. Whoosh! Zhao Feng continued on his path after killing this non-human scout. The distance between the two cities wasn't too great. 5 days later, Zhao Feng was several dozen thousand miles away from Meng City. Perhaps I can use my Eye of Heaven to complete this mission, Zhao Feng thought. However, if he did this, it would reveal one of his hidden cards to the non-humans, and he wouldn't get anything out of it. Zhao Feng continued to approach Meng City. In a forest outside Meng City. Boom! A loud explosion suddenly sounded in the forest as a chaotic disturbance of true yuan started to move. Ha ha ha, the prodigy of the leopardman race is only so-so. A non-human male with purple bat wings sped through the forest. Boom. Bam. Bam. Every time the male with purple bat wings flapped his wings, 2 purple tornadoes would howl through the air and rip everything apart. You're becoming weaker as well. A deep voice sounded from the forest below, and a golden figure suddenly leapt toward the male with purple bat wings as a giant golden claw suddenly shot out. Boom. 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 A thunderous boom sounded wherever the giant golden claw passed by. The powerful wicked aura from it could shake one's heart. Whoosh! The non-human male with purple wings quickly fluttered his wings and evaded the attack from the leopard men. Pang! The giant golden claw landed on the mountain behind the male with bat wings and instantly left behind 4 deep chasms. Purple Wings Tornado. The purple-winged male also unleashed a powerful attack. The battle power on display by these two non-humans quasi-sacred lords was enough to surprise normal sacred lords. The two of them were quasi-sacred lord prodigies that had come alongside the fifth serpent son to Meng City. They were bored after arriving in Meng City and occasionally went out to spar. They had found the scouts before by accident and killed them on the way. "Wait, I feel something weird," the male with bat wings messaged. "Humph. Is it another human scout? What idiots. We killed them last time and they still dare to come?" The expression of the leopardman changed. Hee, let's see which one of us can kill this human scout first." An evil smile appeared on the bat-winged male's face. "Sure." The leopardman revealed his battle intent. Whoosh! One purple and one golden streak of light immediately shot toward a certain direction. These two were prodigies from the Batman and Leopardman races respectively, and they both specialized in speed. Ha ha ha, this scout is a quasi-sacred lord. No wonder he dares to come here. The Batman licked his lips and revealed an excited expression as he saw the golden-haired male slowly walking forward. "I didn't expect to come across two big fish." Zhao Feng was slightly excited. 2 quasi-sacred lords would be worth 12,000 war points. "Human, die." The leopardman turned into a golden leopard and pounced toward Zhao Feng as fast as lightning. Zhao Feng's expression remained the same as he circulated his sacred lightning body. Ding! Bam! The leopardman felt like tofu smashing into a metal wall when his golden claw landed on Zhao Feng's chest. A powerful force of lightning instantly pushed the leopardman back, and cracks appeared in his golden claws as well. One had to know that Zhao Feng's body was enough to take the attacks from normal sacred lords head-on. How could this leopard man's attacks damage Zhao Feng? How? How is this possible? The bat-winged male was slightly slower, and he almost fell from the sky in shock when he saw what happened. Whoosh! The bat-winged male immediately turned around and tried to escape. He didn't know what happened, but this golden-haired male was too strong. He was even stronger than the prodigy he had seen from the Serpentman race. 12,000 war points. I can't let you two off. The scarlet wings of lightning spread open behind Zhao Feng's back as he turned into a bolt of lightning and instantly appeared in front of the leopardman and the bat-winged male. Boom! 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 Bam! An ancient and destructive storm of lightning merged into the air behind Zhao Feng's back. Everything within 10,000 miles instantly turned dark, and the two non-humans were heavily suppressed. What a powerful little world. The bat-winged male was stunned. He felt that his true yuan and bloodline were heavily restricted. Whoosh! The bat-winged male instantly released his little world as well to reduce the pressure of Zhao Feng's little world. Whoosh! Wang tilde. Zhao Feng's speed was even faster than normal within the little world of wind lightning. He instantly arrived before the bat-winged male and thrust his palm out. This nonchalant palm was the simplified version of the sky-destroying sacred lightning palm, but it still contained the essence of the sky-destroying sacred lightning palm. Boom tilde. The image of a scarlet golden palm immediately smashed onto the bat-winged male's purple little world. Crack! Crack! Cracks instantly appeared on the bat-winged male's little world and started to extend. How is this possible? My little world. The bat-winged male's heart rate sped up, and his entire body started to tremble. At this instant, cracks hadn't appeared only on the surface of his little world, the foundational structure of his little world had been damaged as well.